The West Bank is not going to be annexed by Israel. The policy of the Trump administration is that the West Bank will not be annexed by Israel.
Well, appears that today, at least, the Trump administration is condemning the Israeli parliament for a vote that was held just yesterday that essentially formalizes the annexation of the West Bank. Now, today, Vice President J.D. Vance stated that the White House absolutely will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. And even President Donald Trump, if you can remember, made a similar statement just last month. If you don't remember, here's what I'm talking about.
I will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. No, I will not allow it. It's not going to happen.
Did you speak with Netanyahu about this?
Yeah, but I'm not going to allow it. Whether I spoke to him or not, I did. But I'm not allowing Israel to annex the West Bank. There's been enough. It's time to stop now. Okay.
Now, I'm going to get to the details of it's actually two bills that would essentially annex the West Bank on behalf of Israel. So before I get to that though, Cenk, now look, you saw that video of Trump. And I think part of the reason why it was hard to take him seriously is because of the fact that he has essentially allowed Netanyahu to do almost anything and everything he's wanted. He's forked over tens of billions of dollars in US taxpayer money to aid and abet the atrocities that Israel's been carrying out, not just in Gaza, but has been carrying out in the West Bank. I mean, the West Bank has essentially been annexed, at least portions of it, with these illegal settlements. But the reason why I also didn't take him seriously is because if you just look away and listen to the audio of it, it almost sounds like he's like, I'm not gonna let them do it. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm reading into it too much. But the way he speaks makes it seem as though even he doesn't take it seriously.
Yeah, I might shock the world and say, no, I'm not sure I agree. So you might be reading a little too much into that one. And we're gonna show you a video in a little bit here of J.D. Vance kind of yelling at the Israelis in a way that was a bit shocking. But it is a super legitimate question that Anna's referring to. It's so legitimate, we asked it in a poll on tyt.com. And I want you guys to watch this story and then vote on the poll. Is J.D. Vance being authentic or not in what he said about Israel? Because either Trump is drawing a line at annexing the West Bank. I mean, that's not much of a line, but I guess I'll take it. Or this is all just some sort of game, which has happened a billion times, where they pretend to disagree, but then give Israel everything they want.
I mean, that happens almost every time, 99% of the time. But okay, let me give you the details of the story. And you're right. I mean, my last point about the way Trump sounds is my weakest point. But I think we have recent history to kind of inform how these types of hand waving or finger waving statements toward the Israelis really ends up going. So there are two bills at play that were brought up in the Israeli right-wing opposition by the Israeli right-wing opposition Knesset members. So they want Israel's government to be even more right-wing than it already is. And both these bills did end up passing the preliminary votes. Now, what are the bills? The first bill would apply the sovereignty of the state of Israel to the territories of Judea and Samaria, meaning the West Bank. So this is the most consequential bill because essentially what it does is it formalizes that, no, the West Bank, we have voted on it in the Israeli government and we have decided it belongs to us. It's in writing. It's now the law of the land. So that's definitely more consequential. But remember, in some ways, this is kind of symbolic because Israel's annexing portions of the West Bank as we speak anyway, and our government is doing absolutely nothing about it. In fact, one of the first things that President Donald Trump did after getting inaugurated is he removed Biden's sanctions on the Israeli settlers who have been raining terror and stealing homes from Palestinians in the West Bank. So it's kind of hard for me to take Trump seriously. Now, the second bill, real quick, essentially would apply Israeli sovereignty onto a specific city settlement that's illegally built in the West Bank. Cenk.
Yeah, so Israel's kind of amazing because they say all these things in public. In fact, they voted on it. They said, we're just gonna take the West Bank for ourselves. So this is exactly what we've been telling you all along. Greater Israel, they can take West Bank, Gaza Strip. They announced yesterday they're going to keep 53% of the Gaza that they have, and they've got a plan with Jared Kushner to build Israeli condos on top of the graves of the Palestinian children they killed earlier in the conflict. But the US press never acknowledges it. They just lie on behalf of Israel and say, oh no, Israel's only doing self-defense. And if you say they're going to take land, they call you an anti-Semite. But wait a minute, they just voted to take that land. And they called it Judea and Samaria, meaning like, this is our biblical mission, and Netanyahu has said it is this historic mission and spiritual mission to set up greater Israel and to basically, you could say take, you could say steal, you could use any word you like to take the West Bank and Gaza Strip, and they're doing it right in front of our eyes and they're voting on it. Yet nevertheless, American media will say, no, it's outrageous to say they're doing it for the land. Obviously, they are the poor victims and are doing it for self-defense. No, Israel's government's actions are crystal clear. Then the question is, what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, you're right. It is crystal clear. I mean, as I've said multiple times on this show, I don't really rely on US journalism to really know what's going on in Israel, Gaza, the West Bank. I rely on Israeli media. And in Israeli media, you're going to hear the direct quotes, the direct statements from Knesset members. You're going to hear what Benjamin Netanyahu says in Hebrew versus what he tells the American people in English. And oftentimes there are some pretty significant differences in the substance of what they're saying. Okay, so with that in mind, I just want to note that the bill that would apply Israeli sovereignty onto the whole of the West Bank, essentially just annex the entire West Bank, that did pass 25 to 24. Now, the Knesset does have 120 members, but most abstained or did not show up to vote because Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu essentially told the parliament, like, please don't do this while we have Jared Kushner, Vice President JD Vance, and Steve Witkoff, Special Envoy to the Middle East, here doing a presser. It is not a good look. It's going to make the Americans angry. And they did it anyway. So it's not that Netanyahu is against the annexation of the West Bank. He has been overseeing it. He's been directing it for a very long time. It's that he knows that it's not going to look good for the Americans and could potentially upset the Trump administration against Netanyahu, against the Israeli Knesset, if they move forward with this annexation bill. But they did anyway.
Yeah, because they're unaccountable and they think that, what difference does it make? What are they going to do? Cut our funding? No way, right? They're never going to do that. So it doesn't matter if we say we're going to annex West Bank, Gaza Strip, and we didn't even do it for self-defense. We just tell them, yeah, we did it to steal their land. So what? And by the way, we're going to take southern Lebanon and western Syria, and we're going to keep going until you stop us. And American politicians will go, yes, sir, absolutely, sir. Of course, everyone's an anti-Semite, sir. And Americans, you must hand over your money over to the Israelis. You have to give them another $300 billion. And that's, but like I'm saying it's not hyperbole. That's what's happened throughout this entire time. I mean, since Israel has started, and they've attacked our ships. They've killed 7 Americans in the last 3 years. All their offenses against America and all their neighbors is plainly evident. And yet, all of our politicians bow their heads and send them an infinite amount of our money anyway. So they're right, their arrogance is justified.
So with that information in mind, and I can get even more granular about how the Israeli Knesset works, but the important thing to keep in mind is both these bills did pass. And at this point, there are 3 more obstacles or 3 more votes for these bills to get through in order for it to become actual law in Israel. So there really is no indication that they're gonna stop. They're gonna keep pushing for this. And I just want to give you one more piece of evidence, which is, Donald Trump does respond to campaign bribes, and he got one of the biggest campaign bribes from Miriam Adelson, $100 million to allow for the annexation of the West Bank. So the question is Donald Trump willing to upset one of his top donors? He's done it to Elon Musk before, to be fair. But with that in mind, here's what JD Vance had to say about these bills passing.
Yeah, that was weird. I was sort of confused by that. Now, I actually asked somebody about it, and they told me that it was a symbolic vote, some symbolic vote to recognize or a symbolic vote to annex the West Bank. I mean, what I would say to that is when I asked about it, somebody told me that it was a political stunt, that it had no practical significance. It was purely symbolic. I mean, look, if it was a political stunt, it was a very stupid political stunt, and I personally take some insult to it. The West Bank is not going to be annexed by Israel. The policy of the Trump administration is that the West Bank will not be annexed by Israel. That will continue to be our policy. And if people want to take symbolic votes, they can do that. But we certainly weren't happy about it.
Yeah, that was weird. I totally didn't expect anything like that to happen. Weird. Anyway, Cenk, do you think it was weird?
So look, I have two conflicting thoughts on that. One is I kind of love that. And so credit where credit is due. That's the first time in a long time that I haven't heard an American politician just flat out groveling. So just the mere fact that something critical was said about the Israeli government by a US official is so nearly unprecedented that I'll take it. Even if it's fake, I'll take it. Because at least the world heard one American stand up against Israel for the first time in like 60 years. So, okay, now.
I totally disagree. Hold on. Let me just interject real quick. I won't take long. I think it's actually terrible and is going to lead to even more humiliation for the US. Because they're already annexing the West Bank, Cenk. Like we're having a fake debate right now. They are already doing it. The Trump administration has done absolutely nothing to stop the Israeli settlers who are doing the land confiscation, who are stealing the homes. In fact, they have lifted sanctions against the worst offenders, including one who, killed, I believe, a US activist. Like, it's just, the whole thing is insane. So like, it's a fake debate. Like what you're watching right now, if you ask me, it's my opinion, but I have reason to believe that it's nothing more than theater. I don't believe for a second that the Israelis are like, well, whoa, the Trump administration is telling us we're being very bad boys and girls. We're being very naughty and we must stop right away. Come on.
No. Look, Israel will never listen to America. Israel is the boss of us. We're not the boss of them. So
as they continue with the West Bank land confiscation, the annexation, how embarrassing is it going to be for the United States when they do it anyway? We can all see they're doing it anyway, despite the fact that the Trump administration said, no, you may not.
No, okay, so first of all, as you remember, I started by saying I'm very conflicted about what JD Vance said. So the first part is what I explained, which is, hey, it's on tape, an American actually standing up to Israel, never happened before. I don't know about never, but close to never. And but the conflicted part is what I was going to get to, Anna. Is of course I agree with you that it's. I don't know if that's JD Vance's statement is BS, but are we going to stop them from splitting the West Bank and de facto taking it? No, of course we're not going to do that. In fact, they already did it. So they, first of all, they just voted to annex it, and they didn't take the vote back. So that's official Israeli position. We're going to steal the West Bank. We're going to steal Gaza. Nothing about self-defense. They're on a giant land conquest. So that's clear. And us not doing anything about it is also clear. They took a section of the West Bank recently that splits it in two and makes a continuous Palestinian state nearly impossible. And we did nothing to stop them. So their avarice knows no bounds. They're going to keep on stealing as we go along. And the other day we showed you just a couple of days ago, a wonderful Jewish American reporter went to the West Bank to see what the Palestinians were up to. He got assaulted along with the Palestinians by these terrorist Israeli settlers. And on tape, they have one of the settlers beating a woman in her early 70s with a club repeatedly as she's on the ground. These are sick terrorists, and our government has been supporting them the whole time. So I think the only question, Anna, is Trump ever going to draw any realistic line with Israel in terms of threatening their financing to make sure that they don't do something even more egregious in the West Bank or Gaza Strip? And so far, that side you're totally right about. No, he is. No, he drew a line when he told the Israelis to bring their ships, their jets back when they were going to do another bombing run in Iran, right? So again, just a smidge more than what a normal American president does. On the other hand, though, he keeps encouraging them to be worse. Oh yeah, Gaza Riviera and ethnically cleanse the Palestinians. So it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But lastly, though, what you said, we all see it, and of course, I know you didn't mean that. We all see it here online, but on television and in the newspapers, no, they never ever talk about how Israel is going to take the West Bank and Gaza Strip. They all continue to write Hasbara about how, oh, poor Israel is the victim and they're doing self-defense. So the great majority of Americans who get their news from mainstream media have no idea all the war crimes and all the land theft that Israel is doing.
If today's message spoke to your heart, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Together, we'll keep uncovering the living words written in red, words that never fade. Dive into the heart of the Gospels with the red words of the Christ, a profound and illuminating exploration of the words spoken by Jesus Christ. This beautifully crafted book brings together the teachings, parables, and divine wisdom of Jesus as found in the New Testament, offering readers a focused and inspiring journey through his transformative message. Receive your copy today by visiting Amazon. The link will be in the description.